true? I don't know, but sure looks like it. In some cases, they're well aware and are participating in this abduction phenomena, and perhaps even mimicking it. And the whole mind control thing, it's a real problem.
I think it is. Like when I had Timothy on the show, talking about his abduction and then the removal, but he talked about all the things like how him and his wife saw a UFO, and then, he went to the doctor for another thing, and the x-ray showed this piece of metal in him, and how, he's seeked out Dr. Roger Lear and all that stuff. What was interesting, after he had it removed, I don't remember now how long afterwards, but him and his wife were going back into town, and where he saw that first UFO off to this little mountain, off of this one area where he lived, there he saw another UFO. And he stared at it for a while, and then, till it left. And I asked him, I said, well, did you ever go back to Dr. Roger Lear to be examined and see if you were abducted again? Because they removed the device that was implanted in him. And my first feeling was when he sat there and said after it was removed, all of a sudden he saw another UFO in the same place. It made me wonder if they abducted him again.
Hey, it wouldn't surprise me. I know a couple of cases where people have had an implant come out naturally, or in one case, removed by Dr. Lear, and they were abducted again and reimplanted. 3 cases at least I can think of. I know in the Dr. Lear case, this was part of the case I worked on down in San Diego, the Coronado Island UFO incident, which was, originally uncovered by Yvonne Smith. One of the witnesses contacted me and wanted to write a book on it, and we co-wrote it. And there was a number of witnesses who were all, people who were abducted on the same night. One of them was this lady who got this implant, had it removed, and it was, a week later, she had an encounter, and they showed up, and she says, I'm never having one of these things removed again, because they came back and put it in. Another guy, same thing in Missouri, he had this boil on his face that suddenly appeared, and he and his wife were kind of joking, maybe it's an implant, because they've been having a lot of encounters. He's having fully conscious encounters, and he was abducted that night. And the Greys, he's on board this UFO, and the Greys are furious. They're telling him, "This is ridiculous. You've gone through far too many of these." And he's like, "What? That was an implant?" And they're like, "Yes, that was an implant, and now we have to take it out." And he's like, "No, don't worry about it. I won't, fuss with it." And they're like, "No, we're taking it out, and we're putting another one in, and we're going to put it where you'll never find it." That's what they told him.
Wow, I do believe that. Now, I will tell you, one of my hosts I have on my network, Michael W. Hall, he is a lawyer in Washington State. He also has a group called the UFO I-Team where they're trying to prove, UFOs exist. He was also a Superior Court Judge Pro Tem. So the guy is very credible. Now, they had something happen at, I think it was August 28th or 27th or something this past year. They were at Mount Adams, and because that's a highly reported area for UFOs in Washington State.
Right.
Now, they had an encounter of something enormous come up and stop. And it was giving off this weird lights and stuff like that. Some witnesses claim a laser beam shot out from the side of it. Now, after it left, he decided to go to bed, but it was kind of weird things were happening that night. When he went to bed, he was staying with a friend in a camper trailer that let him stay. He used a machine to help him breathe, when he sleeps. And it has a built-in computer. Well, all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, well, not even in the middle of the night, I think an hour into going to bed, it stopped working. So his friend, okay, well, maybe the battery failed. Puts a different battery on it. He decides to go outside. Right next to the trailer, there was a place to go to the bathroom. Now, he only went out there to urinate, so he thought he was out there 3 minutes. Well, when he comes back into the camper trailer, or tent trailer, I should say, his friend is already, wakes up when he comes in, And they look at the time, and he's gone like an hour. He can't figure out why. Now, a lot of weird things happen, like when he woke up, his watch, has a phosphorus dial on it. So those only hold light, and glow so long. And then it fades out. He said when he got out of the sleeping bag, that thing was bright as it has ever been. Really strange, but a lot of things really happened that night. One of the guys, it was so cold, he couldn't, sleep in the tent. So him and his son decided to go out in the car. The story, cut the story short, is that they would start the car, shut it off, start the car, and all of a sudden it wouldn't start again. Probably because it was so cold, the battery couldn't handle the current. Hey, I understand that. Well, the next morning, people were walking by it, and their compasses are going crazy. So they back the guy's car up, they check the ground, and it's normal. They go back to the car, and now the car is a bar magnet. With the poles on it, which, is really weird. Now we had this thing like maybe he was abducted or something. Well, I had him on my show here about a month ago, and I was asking him more questions about it. And I said, do you have a compass around? He goes, yeah, hold on. Comes back with a compass. I said, take it to your left hand. Now, because again, too, I'm leaving out that next morning, he had a triangle on his wrist of dots, like puncture marks, which was kind of interesting. But now he takes his compass and he puts it next to his wrist, and it's going crazy. I said, okay, Michael, go to your other wrist. Doesn't do anything. I said, go back to your other wrist. Goes crazy. He also wore steel-toed boots up there, in that area, up in the woods. And I said, okay, well, do you have those boots you were wearing that night? He goes, yeah. I said, okay, check your left boot with the compass. It's now spinning crazy. I said, oh, check your right one. It's normal. So I don't know. I'm trying to get him to go in and get checked and x-rays, because it makes me wonder if anybody was abducted. He's a perfect candidate, because there was an hour lost. Even the CPATH machine has a computer on it, and it shows like it was off for that hour. You can't go take a pee next to a camper trailer, can you, for an hour and come right back in? I mean, that's really strange.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a lot of the classic markers. It sounds like something happened. It's hard to say. I mean, certainly sounds like it. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad it was him and not me, because, that's what kind of gets me is like, again, like I told you at the beginning of the show, people come out and they tell me all the time they're here to protect us. They're loving. Well, if they're loving and want to protect us, why would they abduct us and implant us or examine us or take samples from our body or whatever, or, torture us and then put us back?
Well, I don't think they're torturing. I don't get accounts of that. I see what you're saying, and they definitely should be more communicative. And it's really not acceptable. Like when people ask them where they're from, the typical answer that people get is like, "Oh, you wouldn't understand," or "It's not important yet," or "We're from a place you don't know about," and things like this. They're very coy in a lot of their answers, and sometimes seem to flat out lie. Like, "We're from Venus." Like, "Oh, really? Our Venus?" So, I mean, I agree with you in their activity, flying around at night, doing things without being seen. They're generally evasive. It's not heartening. So I get where you're coming from. And like I said, I flip-flop a little bit on this. At this point, though, I think the reason I feel like I'm not scared is because people who, the people who have these encounters come away from them spiritually transformed, very interested in all kinds of wonderful things like, out-of-body travel or precognition or channeling or water dowsing or humanitarianism, vegetarianism, animal rights, all kinds of sort of, and this is a pattern I've noticed in terms of who's having contact. And it's not super strong, but it's definitely there, and I keep seeing it, is that people who are doing good work for humanity in some regard, and by that I mean doctors or inventors, teachers, artists, human rights activists, environmentalists. These are, comprise a good number of the abductees, which to me speaks again towards the ET agenda. And why are they why are they interested in these type of people?
Well, look at Jimmy Carter. He claims when he was in the Navy that he saw a UFO, and then he dedicated his life when he became, president. After he became president, he dedicated his life, I should say, to building homes for people, and charity and doing all this stuff. And he's still doing it, even at his 91 years old.
Yeah, and this is the pattern I see. The people, these are really good people, and the ETs seem very interested in that. They seem to be very interested in human emotion. It's all very strange in science fiction. Yeah, I know, and I wonder how skeptics must feel. I kind of know how they do because I was skeptical. But this is really happening. This is an important subject, and for that matter, it's crucial that our government disclose. Because right now we're facing an environmental crisis, an energy crisis, an economic crisis, and multiple crises, which could all be much more easily solved if we would just release this so-called free energy, which apparently we have. We do have anti-gravity. We have this stuff. It's time to release it and get off fossil fuels.
Yeah, but then there's always talk about, the government might use a UFO fake invasion to declare martial law. That rumor has been floating around for years, too. So like they would stage a fake invasion,
Right. False flag. Yeah, I've heard of this. I'm a little worried about it, and, they might have technology to put this holographic stuff in the sky that's going to be very convincing. So we have to be careful, and I've been informed that not all UFOs are alien, and 10-20% at least are us flying them around. So we have to be careful of humans masquerading as ETs, which I hope isn't happening. But gosh, I don't know. We still don't know what's really going on with the whole cattle mutilation phenomena. A lot of this stuff is still a mystery. And there are a number of high-profile investigators who feel we're not even dealing with the ETs. We're dealing with a phenomenon that puts on different guises, different masks, which I disagree with. I don't think that's true. I do think there is an interdimensional aspect to this, and I do know that contact cases can cause poltergeist breakouts, and I know about the Bigfoot connection, and I've looked into a lot of this stuff. And I know the connection between near-death experiences and out-of-body experiences and how the similarities are astounding in some of these cases. But it's a separate phenomena. And I think it's a mistake to mix, all this stuff together.
I think so.
ETs are not angels. They're not demons. I looked into demons. Boy, they're horrendous. The evidence for them is outstanding. There's no doubt there's some evil spirits on our planet who are wreaking havoc in people's homes. But those hauntings follow a very, set pattern. We know a lot about them, how they begin, how they evolve, and how they end. I've talked to people who've gone through a possession experience. I don't think that's what's happening with UFOs. Demons, their goal is to destroy and hurt people and, wreak havoc. That's not the ET agenda at all. And people come away from their experiences improved in a number of cases. So I don't think they're here to destroy people.
I don't. I will say this. Back again about 5-6 months ago, I had a guest on a trucker who used to do, the nighttime long hauls. And he was going through Texas, and I don't know if he was coming out of the desert or going into the desert, but he was in Cadillac.